Welcome back, Coinology. Imagine holding a tiny coin in your hand, a coin that most people ignore every single day. People toss it into jars, leave it in car cup holders, or sometimes even throw it away because it seems almost worthless. But what if I told you that one small coin, the 2008 D1 cent coin, has a story much bigger than its size? A story connected to history, design, collectors, rare errors, and even rumors of massive values circulating online. Today we're diving deep into the world of the 2008 D penny, exploring its weight, symbols, design details, historical background, how the coin was made, why collectors care about it, what the real market value is, and whether any versions of this coin could actually be worth big money. First, let's begin with what this coin actually is. The 2008 D coin is part of the famous Lincoln cent series, a coin that has existed in American pockets for more than a century. The Lincoln penny first appeared in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the 100th anniversary of his birth. Over the decades, the coin changed materials, mint locations, and even its reverse design, but the portrait of Lincoln remained one of the most recognizable images in the world of coins. The 2008 penny represents something very special in this timeline. It was actually the final year of the Lincoln Memorial design on the back of the coin before the U.S. Mint introduced new designs in 2009 celebrating Lincoln's bicentennial. Now imagine the moment in 2008 when millions and millions of these coins were being produced. Massive machines striking metal blanks, stamping Lincoln's portrait again and again with incredible speed. Billions of coins entered circulation that year. In fact, the Denver Mint alone produced about 2.8 billion of these pennies, which means they are extremely common in everyday circulation. But here's where things get interesting. Even though billions were made, collectors still search through piles of pennies looking for something special, a rare condition, a minting mistake, or a unique variation that could increase the coin's value dramatically. Let's talk about the physical details of the coin first, because this is something every collector checks. The weight of the 2008 D penny is about 2.5 grams. The diameter is roughly 19 millimeters, and the edge of the coin is plain, meaning it has no ridges like some other coins. The composition of the coin is mostly zinc with a thin copper coating on the outside. Specifically, the coin is made of about 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. This composition might sound simple, but it actually reflects an important change in American coin history. Earlier pennies used to be mostly copper, but due to rising metal costs, the U.S. Mint switched to copper-plated zinc in 1982. Since then, pennies like the 2008 version have been made using that same formula. When you look closely at the front of the coin, also known as the obverse, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's portrait facing to the right. This portrait was originally designed by Victor David Brenner and has remained largely unchanged for over 100 years. Around Lincoln's head, you'll see inscriptions that are key identifiers for collectors. The word Liberty appears on one side, the year 2008 appears near the front, and below the date you'll see a small letter, the mint mark. In the case of the coin we're talking about, that mint mark is the letter D. That small letter tells us something important. The coin was produced at the Denver Mint. Many people don't realize how important that small symbol is. That tiny letter can change the entire story of a coin. Coins minted in different locations can sometimes have different rarity levels, different error varieties, and different values in the collector market. Now turn the coin over to the reverse side, and you'll see one of the most iconic images in American coin history, the Lincoln Memorial Building. The design was created by Frank Gasparo and was used on pennies from 1959 until 2008. That means the coin we are talking about marks the final chapter of a design that lasted nearly half a century. Yet if you look very carefully at the Lincoln Memorial on the coin, you can actually see something incredible. Inside the columns of the building, there is a tiny image of the Lincoln statue seated inside the memorial. This small detail fascinated collectors for decades because it meant Lincoln was technically shown twice on the same coin, once on the front and once on the back. Now let's talk about value, because this is the part that most people are curious about. Many YouTube videos and social media posts claim certain pennies are worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars. Some even mention numbers like $6,600 million circulating online, which can be very confusing. In reality, the standard 2008 D penny that you might find in your pocket is usually worth about 1 cent, or slightly more if it's in uncirculated condition. According to coin market data, uncirculated examples might sell for around a few cents to a few dollars depending on their condition and grade. However, there are special cases where coins become valuable, and this is where the story becomes exciting.
Coin grading plays a massive role in determining price.
Professional grading companies evaluate coins on a scale from 1 to 70, or higher numbers indicate better condition. A coin that looks almost perfect under magnification, with no scratches and full original shine, could receive a grade like MS67 or higher. Coins in these top grades can sell for much higher prices compared to normal circulated coins. For example, some high-grade examples of the 2008 penny have reached prices ranging from around tens of dollars to hundreds, and in extremely rare top conditions even thousands depending on certification and auction demand. But the real excitement in coin collecting often comes from mint errors. Mint errors are mistakes that happen during the coin production process.
Sometimes the coin blank might not be aligned correctly, or the die might crack, or the metal composition might be wrong.
When this happens, the coin becomes unique and collectors begin searching for it. One example is a silver-colored 2008 penny error where the coin was struck incorrectly on a different metal planchet. These rare coins have sold for hundreds of dollars in auctions depending on the condition. There are also errors known as off-center strikes, where part of the coin design is missing because the coin blank shifted during striking. Another type is the double strike, where the coin was struck twice by the minting machine, creating overlapping designs. Some of these error coins have sold for significant amounts because collectors love unique pieces that tell a story of how the coin was made. In fact, there have been auction examples where rare error versions of 2008 pennies reached prices in the hundreds or even over $1,000 depending on the rarity and grading. Now imagine thousands of collectors sitting at tables under bright lights, examining pennies with magnifying glasses, searching for tiny details that could turn an ordinary coin into something valuable. That is the world of numismatics, the hobby and study of coins. Another important thing to understand is the concept of rarity versus hype.
On the internet, you may see listings claiming a penny is worth huge amounts of money.
But listing a coin for a high price does not mean someone actually paid that amount. Real value is determined by completed sales at auctions in verified collector markets. That's why professional collectors always check grading, authentication, and auction history before deciding how much a coin is truly worth. The year 2008 itself also represents an important transition moment in U.S. coinage history. After decades of the Lincoln Memorial design, the government introduced new designs in 2009 showing different stages of Abraham Lincoln's life. These included designs representing his childhood, early career, and presidency. Now imagine you are sitting at a table with a small pile of coins in front of you, maybe coins you collected over time without even thinking, coins from grocery stores, roadside shops, or change you never bothered to spend. Somewhere in that pile could be a 2008 penny, and the real question that begins to take shape in your mind is not just what it looks like, but whether it could actually be worth more than 1 cent. This is where curiosity turns into investigation, and investigation is what separates an ordinary person from a collector who understands the hidden language of coins. When people hear claims like a single penny being worth $6.6 million, the first reaction is disbelief, and honestly, that reaction is justified. In the real world of coin collecting, values are determined by auctions, verified sales, grading reports, and collector demand, not by random listings or exaggerated claims. So before diving deeper, it is important to understand something very clearly. There is no confirmed record of a regular 2008 Lincoln cent selling anywhere near millions of dollars. Claims like that usually come from misleading online listings, clickbait videos, or sellers placing extremely high prices on coins without any actual buyer agreeing to pay that amount. However, this does not mean the coin is worthless beyond 1 cent. In fact, certain rare conditions and specific circumstances can push the value of a 2008 penny into surprisingly high ranges compared to its face value. The key is understanding exactly what those circumstances are and how to identify them correctly. One of the most important factors in determining the value of any coin is grading. Professional grading companies such as Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company use a detailed system to evaluate coins based on their condition. This system ranges from poor condition all the way to mint state perfection. A coin graded MS65 is considered in very good condition with strong luster and minimal marks, while a coin graded MS68 or MS69 is extremely rare and nearly flawless. Now here is where things start to get interesting. Modern coins like the 2008 penny are produced in huge quantities, which means most of them enter circulation and get worn down very quickly.
Finding one in near-perfect condition is actually much harder than it sounds.
That is why collectors are willing to pay significantly more for high-grade examples.
A 2008 D penny graded MS67 might sell for a modest premium, but an MS68 example can sometimes jump into hundreds or even over $1,000 depending on demand at the time of sale. But grading alone is not the only factor that can create value. Mint errors are where things can become truly exciting. These errors occur during the production process when something goes wrong, and because they are not supposed to happen, they create rare variations that collectors actively seek out. Think of it like a mistake in a printed book that makes a particular copy unique compared to millions of others. For the 2008 D penny, several types of mint errors have been reported over time. One of the more noticeable ones is an off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin is not properly aligned with the dies during striking, resulting in part of the design missing and the rest shifted to one side. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more valuable the coin can become. Another type of error is a double die, where the design appears duplicated or slightly offset, especially in the lettering or date. This effect can sometimes be subtle and requires magnification to detect. Collectors often examine coins under bright light with magnifying tools to spot these tiny differences that can make a huge impact on value. There are also cases where coins are struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a penny design stamped onto a metal blank meant for a different coin, resulting in a coin that looks unusual in color, size, or weight. This kind of error is extremely rare, and when verified, it can make the coin highly valuable. In such cases, checking the weight becomes very important. A standard 2008 D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, so any significant deviation could be a sign that something unusual has occurred. Collectors also pay attention to luster, which is the way light reflects off the surface of the coin. A coin that has never been circulated often has a bright, almost glowing appearance, sometimes described as mint shine. Once a coin enters circulation, this luster begins to fade due to handling and wear. Preserving this original luster is one of the reasons why uncirculated coins are more valuable. Now let us talk about something that often confuses beginners: the difference between listing price and actual sale price. You might go online and see a 2008 D penny listed for thousands or even millions of dollars, and it can be tempting to believe that this is its true value. But in reality, anyone can list a coin for any price they want. The true value is determined only when a buyer actually agrees to pay that amount. Serious collectors rely on auction records from reputable platforms and auction houses. These records show real transactions where coins were sold, providing accurate data about market value. If you look at verified sales, you will see that most 2008 D pennies sell for very small amounts unless they are in exceptional condition or have unique errors. This brings us to an important mindset shift. Instead of thinking that every coin might be worth millions, it is more realistic and productive to think in terms of probabilities. Most coins will not be valuable, but a small percentage might be worth significantly more than face value. The goal is to learn how to identify those few special coins among many ordinary ones. The history behind the coin also adds another layer of interest. The Lincoln penny has been a part of American life for over a century, surviving changes in technology, economy, and design trends. By 2008, it had already gone through several transformations in metal composition and production methods, yet it still retained the same basic identity that began in 1909. The fact that 2008 marked the final year of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse gives it a kind of symbolic importance. It represents the end of a long chapter before the introduction of new designs in 2009. For collectors who focus on historical transitions, this alone can make the coin worth saving, even if it is not worth a large amount of money. Another interesting aspect is how modern coin collecting has been influenced by the internet. In the past, collectors relied on books, coin shops, and word of mouth to learn about values and rare finds. Today, information spreads instantly through videos, forums, and online marketplaces. This has both positive and negative effects. On one hand, it makes knowledge more accessible, allowing more people to participate in the hobby. On the other hand, it also leads to the spread of misinformation, such as exaggerated claims about coin values. This is why it is important to verify information using reliable sources and not rely solely on viral content or sensational headlines. Understanding the basics of coin grading, minting, and market behavior gives you the ability to make informed decisions rather than being misled by unrealistic expectations. Imagine the excitement of finding a coin that stands out from the rest, a coin with sharper details, brighter shine, or a small but noticeable error. That moment of discovery is what drives many collectors. It turns an everyday object into something meaningful, something worth studying and preserving, and as you continue to search through coins, your eyes begin to notice details that you might have ignored before. The position of letters, the clarity of the design, the weight in your hand, the sound it makes when dropped on a surface. All these small observations become clues in determining whether a coin is ordinary or something special. The journey of understanding the 2008 penny is not just about money, it is about awareness, patience, and attention to detail. It is about realizing that value can exist in unexpected places, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for, and we are still only getting deeper into this topic. In the next part, we will go even further into advanced identification techniques, real auction comparisons, how to properly store coins to protect their value, and step-by-step methods to turn coin searching into a serious side hustle or even a full hobby that can generate income over time. Now imagine that your curiosity has turned into a routine, and instead of randomly glancing at coins, you have started to examine each one carefully, almost like a detective studying clues. This is where the journey becomes more serious, because the difference between someone who occasionally checks coins and someone who consistently finds valuable pieces lies in method, discipline, and knowledge. The 2008 penny becomes more than just a coin at this stage, it becomes a training ground for understanding how hidden value works in everyday currency. The first advanced technique that experienced collectors use is systematic sorting. Instead of randomly checking coins one by one without focus, they separate coins by year, mint mark, and condition. When you gather multiple 2008 pennies and isolate those with the D mint mark, you begin to compare them side by side. This comparison is powerful because differences become more visible when coins are placed next to each other. One coin may appear slightly shinier, another may have sharper details in Lincoln's hair, while another might show small irregularities in the lettering. Lighting plays a critical role in this process. A coin that looks ordinary under dim light can reveal important details under bright, direct lighting. Collectors often use a simple desk lamp or even sunlight to tilt the coin at different angles, observing how the surface reflects light. This helps reveal luster, scratches, and possible doubling effects. When the light moves across the surface, a high-quality coin will often display a smooth, almost silky reflection, while a worn coin will appear dull and uneven. Magnification is another essential tool. Even a basic magnifying glass can make a huge difference, but serious collectors often use jeweler's loupes or digital microscopes. Under magnification, tiny details come into focus. The edges of letters, the texture of Lincoln's coat, the clarity of the memorial columns on the reverse side, all of these elements can indicate the grade and possible value of the coin. Sometimes, what looks like a normal coin to the naked eye can reveal doubling or small die errors when magnified. One of the most important areas to examine on the 2008 penny is the date and the mint mark. Look closely at the number 2008 and the small d beneath it. If you notice any doubling, where the numbers appear slightly shadowed or duplicated, it could indicate a doubled die error. These errors are subtle and often require careful observation, but they are among the most sought-after varieties in modern coins. Another area to inspect is the word liberty and the phrase, "In God We Trust." These inscriptions can sometimes show signs of die deterioration or doubling. While not all irregularities increase value significantly, certain patterns can indicate collectible varieties. The key is learning to distinguish between normal wear and actual minting errors. Now let us go deeper into the concept of die states. Coins are struck using dies, which are metal tools engraved with the coin's design. Over time, these dies wear down, develop cracks, or accumulate small imperfections. As a result, coins produced later in a die's life may show slight differences compared to those struck earlier. This is why some collectors study die states, looking for cracks, chips, or other markers that make a coin unique within a large production run. For the 2008 penny, die cracks may appear as thin raised lines on the surface of the coin, often near the edges or around the design elements. These are not scratches, they are part of the metal itself, created during the striking process. While minor die cracks may not add significant value, larger or more dramatic ones can make a coin more interesting to collectors. Now think about handling. The way you handle a coin can directly affect its value. Touching the surface with bare fingers can leave oils and fingerprints that damage the coin over time. This is why collectors handle coins by the edges, minimizing contact with the flat surfaces. It may seem like a small detail, but preserving the condition of a coin is one of the most important aspects of maintaining its value. Storage is equally important.
Coins that are left loose in drawers or jars can get scratched and damaged through contact with other coins. To protect them, collectors use coin holders, flips, or albums designed specifically for storage. Keeping coins in a dry, stable environment prevents corrosion and discoloration, especially for copper-plated coins like the 2008 penny. Now let us talk about the idea of building value over time. Most people think of coin collecting as a way to find instant wealth, but in reality, it is often a long-term process. A coin that is worth only a few cents today might become more valuable in the future due to increasing collector interest, historical significance, or decreasing availability in high-grade condition. This is especially true for coins that mark the end of a design series, like the 2008 Lincoln Memorial Penny. Another advanced concept is population reports. These reports are published by grading companies like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company, and they show how many coins have been graded at each level. If only a small number of 2008 pennies have been graded at MS68 or higher, this scarcity can drive up value because collectors compete for a limited number of high-grade examples. This leads to an important realization. Rarity is not just about how many coins were made, it is about how many exist in a particular condition. Even though billions of 2008 pennies were produced, only a tiny fraction remain in near-perfect condition today. That is what creates potential value. Let us now explore the idea of coin roll hunting. This is a popular method used by collectors to search for valuable coins. It involves obtaining rolls of coins from banks and carefully examining each one. After checking, the coins are returned or exchanged, and the process continues. This method allows collectors to search through large quantities of coins at minimal cost, increasing the chances of finding something valuable. When searching for 2008 pennies and rolls, collectors look for coins with strong luster, minimal marks, and any signs of errors. Even finding a single high-grade coin can make the effort worthwhile. Over time, this method can yield a collection of coins that may increase in value. Now imagine the excitement of finding a coin that stands out immediately, a coin that looks brighter, sharper, and more detailed than the rest. Your instincts tell you that this one is different, and as you examine it more closely, you begin to see why. This moment is what makes coin collecting addictive for many people. It is the thrill of discovery, the possibility that something small and ordinary could turn out to be special. However, it is also important to stay grounded. Not every shiny coin is valuable, and not every unusual mark is an error. Experience and knowledge are what allow collectors to make accurate judgments. This is why learning and practice are essential parts of the process. Another important topic is authentication. As coin values increase, the risk of counterfeit coins also increases. While it is less common for modern pennies to be counterfeited compared to older, more valuable coins, it is still possible. Professional grading services provide authentication, ensuring that a coin is genuine and accurately graded. This adds credibility and can significantly increase the coin's market value. Now think about the broader market. Coin values are influenced by supply and demand, just like any other collectible. When more collectors become interested in a particular coin, its value can rise. Conversely, if interest decreases, prices may fall. This dynamic nature of the market means that coin collecting is not just about finding coins, but also about understanding trends and timing. The idea of a 2008 penny being worth $6.6 million may not be realistic, but it serves as a reminder of how powerful the concept of rarity can be. There are coins in the world that have sold for millions, but they are usually extremely rare historical pieces with unique stories and limited surviving examples. The 2008 penny, while interesting and collectible, does not fall into that category under normal circumstances. Still, the journey of searching, learning, and discovering is what makes this topic so engaging. Every coin has a story, and every collection is a reflection of the person who built it. Whether you are searching for high-value coins or simply enjoying the process, the experience itself has value, and we are still not finished. In the next part, we will dive even deeper into real-life selling strategies, how people actually turn coins into cash, mistakes beginners make that cost them money, and how to build a serious coin collection step by step with a focus on long-term profit and knowledge. Now imagine that you have spent days, maybe even weeks, going through coins, separating, examining, comparing, learning the small differences, and slowly building an understanding that most people never develop. At this stage, a new question naturally appears in your mind, and that question is simple but powerful: how do you actually turn a coin into real money?
Because finding a potentially valuable 2008 penny is one thing, but successfully selling it for a higher price is an entirely different challenge. The process of selling coins is where many beginners make mistakes, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack experience in how the market truly works. The first and most common mistake is overestimating value based on unrealistic listings. Seeing a coin listed online for thousands or even millions does not mean it will sell for that amount. In fact, many of those listings remain unsold for years, acting more like advertisements than actual transactions. Serious sellers focus on completed sales, not active listings. Completed sales show what buyers have actually paid, and that is the only real indicator of value. When you start studying these records, you begin to understand the realistic price range for coins in different conditions. For a typical 2008 penny, most circulated examples will sell for only a few cents above face value, while high-grade or error coins can reach much higher prices depending on demand. Now consider the importance of presentation. A coin that is simply thrown onto a table and photographed poorly will not attract serious buyers. Lighting, clarity, and angles all matter. Sellers who take clear, detailed photos showing both sides of the coin, along with close-ups of important areas like the date and mint mark, are far more likely to gain trust and interest from buyers. This is especially important if you believe your coin has a unique feature or error that needs to be clearly visible. Another critical factor is description. A strong listing includes accurate information about the coin's condition, weight, and any notable features. If you claim a coin is rare or valuable, you need to explain why, using clear observations rather than vague statements. For example, instead of saying this coin is extremely rare, it is more effective to say this coin shows a possible double die effect on the date and has strong original luster with minimal surface marks. Honesty is essential in this process. Overstating the quality or rarity of a coin can lead to disappointed buyers, negative feedback, and long-term damage to your reputation as a seller. Building trust is far more valuable than making a quick sale, especially if you plan to continue buying and selling coins over time. Now let us talk about where to sell. There are several options available, each with its own advantages and challenges. Online marketplaces provide access to a global audience, increasing the chances of finding a buyer who is specifically interested in your type of coin. Local coin shops offer the advantage of immediate transactions, but they may offer lower prices because they need to resell the coin at a profit. Coin shows and collector events provide opportunities to interact directly with experienced buyers, which can be valuable for both selling and learning. The role of grading becomes even more important when selling higher value coins. A coin that has been professionally graded by organizations like Professional Coin Grading Service or Numismatic Guarantee Company carries more credibility in the market. Buyers are more confident in purchasing a graded coin because its condition and authenticity have been verified by experts. This often results in higher sale prices compared to ungraded coins. However, grading is not free, and this leads to an important decision. If your 2008 penny appears to be in average condition, the cost of grading may exceed its value. On the other hand, if you believe you have a near-perfect coin or a significant error, grading could be a worthwhile investment. This decision requires careful judgment, and over time, experience will help you make better choices. Now think about timing. Just like any market, coin prices can fluctuate. There may be periods when demand for certain coins increases, leading to higher prices. For example, during times when more people become interested in coin collecting, such as economic uncertainty or increased media attention, the market can become more active. Selling during these periods can sometimes result in better returns. Another important strategy is patience. Not every coin will sell immediately, especially if it is priced at the higher end of its value range. Waiting for the right buyer can make a significant difference. This is particularly true for coins with unique features or high grades, where the pool of potential buyers is smaller but more specialized. Now let us discuss mistakes that can reduce a coin's value instantly. Cleaning a coin is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. It might seem logical to clean a coin to make it look better, but in the world of coin collecting, cleaning often damages the surface and removes original luster. This can significantly reduce the coin's value, sometimes by a large percentage. Collectors prefer coins in their natural state, even if they show signs of age. Another mistake is improper storage. Leaving coins exposed to moisture, heat, or direct contact with other coins can lead to damage over time. Scratches, discoloration, and corrosion can all reduce value. Using proper storage materials and keeping coins in a controlled environment helps preserve their condition and potential worth. Now imagine taking everything you have learned and turning it into a consistent routine. You check coins regularly, you study their details, you learn from each find, and you gradually build a collection. Over time, this collection becomes more than just a group of coins. It becomes a record of your knowledge, effort, and discoveries. Some people even turn this hobby into a side income. By buying coins in bulk, searching for valuable pieces, and reselling them, they create a system that generates profit over time. It requires patience and dedication, but it is entirely possible with the right approach. The idea of a 2008 D penny being worth $6.6 million may not be realistic in the current market, but the concept behind it is still powerful. It reminds us that value is not always obvious, and that sometimes, the smallest objects can carry hidden potential. The real opportunity lies in understanding that potential and knowing how to recognize it. As you continue this journey, your perspective changes. Coins are no longer just small pieces of metal. They become objects of history, design, and possibility. Each one has a story, and each one offers a chance to learn something new, and even now, there is still more to uncover. In the next part, we will go deeper into expert-level insights, including how rare coins reach auction houses, real examples of coins that unexpectedly sold for high amounts, psychological tricks used in pricing, and how to build a long-term strategy that goes far beyond just the 2008 D penny. Now imagine that you are no longer just someone casually checking coins, but someone who has started to understand the deeper psychology and hidden mechanics of the coin market. At this level, things begin to shift from simple observation into strategy, and the 2008 D penny becomes just one small piece of a much larger system that connects collectors, dealers, auction houses, and investors across the world. One of the most fascinating aspects of the coin market is how perception can influence value. Two coins that are technically similar in grade and condition can sell for very different prices depending on how they are presented, who is selling them, and who is buying them. This is where psychology enters the picture. Buyers are not just purchasing metal, they are purchasing a story, a sense of rarity, and sometimes even a feeling of winning something exclusive. Think about auctions for a moment. When a coin is placed in a competitive auction environment, something interesting happens. Instead of a fixed price, the value becomes dynamic, driven by multiple buyers competing against each other. This competition can push prices beyond what might be considered a normal market range. In rare cases, emotional bidding can lead to surprisingly high sale prices, especially if two or more collectors are determined to own the same coin. This is how certain coins, even modern ones, can sometimes achieve unexpected results. While a 2008 D penny is not known to reach extreme values like millions, the principle still applies on a smaller scale. A high-grade or unique error coin can attract attention, and if multiple collectors are interested, the final price can climb significantly. Now consider the role of large auction houses such as Heritage Auctions and Stacksbauer's galleries. These organizations specialize in selling rare and valuable coins, often handling pieces that are worth thousands or even millions of dollars. When a coin is sold through a reputable auction house, it gains visibility and credibility, which can increase its perceived value. For a coin like the 2008 D penny, reaching such auction platforms would typically require something extraordinary, such as a top population grade or a rare and well-documented mint error. In these cases, the coin is no longer just a common piece of currency, it becomes a collectible item with a unique identity. Another advanced concept to understand is the idea of market cycles. Just like stocks or real estate, the coin market experiences periods of growth and decline. During times of economic uncertainty, more people may turn to tangible assets like coins, increasing demand and pushing prices higher. At other times, interest may slow down, leading to more stable or even lower prices. This is why experienced collectors often think long-term. Instead of focusing only on immediate profit, they consider how a coin might perform over years or even decades. A 2008 D penny in excellent condition might not be worth much today, but as time passes and fewer high-grade examples remain, its value could gradually increase. Now let us explore the concept of top population coins. When grading companies like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company evaluate coins, they record how many examples exist at each grade level. If a coin is one of only a few graded at the highest level, it is considered a top population coin. These coins often command premium prices because collectors compete to own the best of the best. Imagine having a 2008 D penny that is graded at the very highest level, with only a handful of similar coins in existence. Even though billions were originally produced, your specific coin becomes rare in terms of condition. This is one of the most powerful ideas in coin collecting: rarity within abundance. Now think about branding and reputation. If a well-known collector or dealer offers a coin, it can sometimes sell for more simply because of who is associated with it. This may seem surprising, but reputation builds trust, and trust influences buying decisions. A coin with a documented history or previous ownership by a respected collector can carry an added layer of desirability. Another interesting factor is storytelling. Coins that are presented with a compelling narrative often attract more attention. For example, describing a 2008 penny as the final year of the Lincoln Memorial design, preserved in near-perfect condition with exceptional luster, creates a stronger impression than simply listing it as 2008 penny for sale. The way information is framed can significantly impact how a coin is perceived. And now let us address the topic of extreme claims, such as a 2008 penny being worth $6.6 million. While there is no verified evidence supporting such a value for this specific coin, understanding why these claims exist is important. They often arise from a mix of misinformation, misunderstanding, and marketing tactics designed to attract attention. In some cases, sellers intentionally list coins at extremely high prices to generate curiosity or to create the illusion of rarity. For someone new to coin collecting, these claims can be confusing and misleading. That is why education is the most valuable tool you can have. By learning how to evaluate coins based on real factors like condition, rarity, and verified sales, you can avoid falling into these traps and make informed decisions. Now imagine taking all of this knowledge and applying it consistently over time. You begin to recognize patterns, understand market behavior, and develop an instinct for identifying coins with potential. What once seemed like a random hobby becomes a structured and rewarding pursuit. You might start by focusing on a specific type of coin, such as the Lincoln Cent series, and gradually expand your knowledge to include other coins. Each new discovery adds to your experience, and over time, you build a collection that reflects both your effort and your understanding. The journey also teaches patience. Valuable coins are not found every day, and not every search will lead to a significant discovery. But each search increases your chances, and each coin you examine adds to your knowledge. This gradual accumulation of experience is what separates successful collectors from those who give up too quickly. And now think about the broader meaning behind all of this. A simple coin, something most people ignore, becomes a gateway to learning about history, economics, art, and human behavior. It shows how value is created, perceived, and exchanged. It reminds us that even the smallest objects can hold significance beyond what we initially see. The 2008 penny, while common in many ways, still carries this deeper meaning. It represents the end of a design era, the complexity of modern minting, and the possibility of hidden value through condition and error. It is a reminder that opportunity often exists in places where most people are not looking, and even now, there is still more to explore. In the next part, we will go into the final and most advanced level of this topic, including real-world case studies, how collectors scale their operations, insider tips used by professionals, and a complete mindset transformation that takes you from beginner to expert in the world of coin collecting. Now imagine that you have reached a point where coins are no longer just objects you examine occasionally, but part of a system you understand deeply, almost instinctively. At this stage, everything begins to connect: the weight, the shine, the tiny details in the design, the subtle differences between coins that most people would never notice. The 2008 penny, which once seemed completely ordinary, now becomes something you can analyze within seconds, almost like reading a familiar language. This is where real transformation happens, because you are no longer reacting to information, you are predicting outcomes. When you pick up a coin, your mind automatically checks for luster, strike quality, surface marks, alignment, and overall eye appeal. You begin to recognize patterns in how coins age, how they wear, and how certain types of coins are more likely to survive in high-grade condition. At this level, collectors often develop a specialization. Some focus only on high-grade modern coins, searching for near-perfect examples that can achieve top population status. Others focus on mint errors, constantly scanning for unusual features that indicate something went wrong during production. And some combine both approaches, looking for coins that are not only in excellent condition but also possess rare and unusual characteristics. For the 2008 penny, reaching this level of expertise means understanding exactly what separates a common coin from a potentially valuable one. You start to notice how the details in Lincoln's portrait should look when fully struck, how the lines of the Lincoln Memorial should appear sharp and complete, and how the fields of the coin should reflect light without interruption. Even the smallest imperfections become meaningful. Now let us talk about real-world case behavior, not in terms of exaggerated claims, but actual patterns seen in the coin market. There have been countless examples of modern coins that were once considered ordinary but later gained attention due to their condition or unique features. Coins that were carefully preserved, stored properly, and eventually graded at very high levels have achieved prices far above what anyone initially expected. This teaches an important lesson. Value is not always immediate. Sometimes it develops slowly over time, influenced by collector interest, population scarcity, and historical context. A 2008 D penny that is in exceptional condition today may become more desirable in the future simply because fewer examples remain in that same condition. Now think about scaling this knowledge. Instead of looking at one coin at a time, experienced collectors often work with large quantities. They search through rolls, boxes, and even bags of coins, applying the same principles repeatedly. This increases efficiency and improves the chances of finding something valuable. It also builds speed and confidence, allowing them to identify promising coins quickly. Some collectors take this even further by forming networks. They connect with other collectors, dealers, and enthusiasts, sharing information and exchanging coins. This creates opportunities that would not exist in isolation. A coin that may not seem valuable in one context could be highly desirable to another collector who is completing a specific set. Now consider the idea of long-term positioning. Instead of focusing only on immediate sales, advanced collectors often think about how their collection will evolve over time. They may choose to hold certain coins, waiting for the right moment to sell when demand is higher. This approach requires patience, but it can lead to better results compared to rushing into quick sales. The concept of a 2008 D penny being worth $6.6 million remains unrealistic in the current market, but by now, you understand something much more important. You understand how value is actually created. It is not random, and it is not based on wishful thinking. It is based on rarity, condition, demand, and credibility. This understanding protects you from misinformation and allows you to focus on real opportunities. Instead of chasing unrealistic expectations, you begin to appreciate steady growth, consistent learning, and informed decision-making. This is what separates a serious collector from someone who is simply hoping for luck. Now imagine the moment when you finally find a coin that stands out clearly, not just because it looks different, but because you understand why it is different. You recognize the sharpness of the strike, the brilliance of the luster, the absence of significant marks. You weigh it, examine it under magnification, and everything aligns with what you have learned. At that moment, you are no longer guessing. You are making an informed judgment. This moment is powerful because it represents the result of everything you have learned. It is the point where knowledge turns into action, and action creates real potential for value. Another important insight at this level is understanding risk. Not every decision will be perfect, and not every coin will turn out to be valuable. But by applying consistent methods and focusing on quality, you reduce the chances of mistakes. Over time, the successes begin to outweigh the failures, and the overall process becomes more rewarding. Now think about how far you have come in this journey. What started as a simple question about a single coin has expanded into a deep understanding of an entire field. You have learned about history, design, minting, grading, market behavior, selling strategies, and advanced techniques. You have seen how small details can make a big difference, and how knowledge can turn ordinary objects into opportunities. The 2008 D penny is no longer just a coin. It is a symbol of how value can be hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with the right knowledge to recognize it. It represents the idea that even the smallest things can carry significance, not just in terms of money, but in terms of learning and discovery. And now, as you look at any coin in your hand, you see it differently. You do not just see a piece of metal. You see a combination of history, craftsmanship, and potential. You understand that most coins will remain ordinary, but a few may stand out, and those few are worth the effort to find. This is the mindset that turns coin collecting into something more than a hobby. It becomes a skill, a discipline, and for some, even a source of income. It teaches patience, observation, and critical thinking. It rewards curiosity and persistence, and in the end, that is the real value of this journey. Not just the possibility of finding a valuable coin, but the knowledge and perspective you gain along the way. Because once you learn how to see value where others do not, that skill extends far beyond coins into many other areas of life. So the next time you receive a handful of change, pause for a moment. Look closely. Because hidden within those small, ordinary coins could be something worth far more than you ever expected, not millions, perhaps, but enough to remind you that value is often hidden in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone who knows how to find it. Now imagine something even deeper than everything you have learned so far, a level where you are not just observing coins or even analyzing them, but actually thinking like the market itself. This is the stage where very few people reach, because it requires not only knowledge, but awareness of how other people think, how they react, and how value is shaped by collective behavior rather than just facts. At this level, the 2008 penny becomes almost like a case study in human psychology. Billions were made, millions still exist, and yet only a tiny fraction are ever looked at closely. Most people never examine their coins. They spend them, ignore them, or throw them into jars without a second thought. This creates a strange situation where something extremely common can still have rare variations hiding inside it, simply because no one is paying attention, and this is where opportunity begins to exist, not because the coin itself is magically valuable, but because attention is rare. When attention is applied consistently, patterns start to appear, and those patterns lead to discoveries that others miss. Think about this carefully. If millions of people handle coins every day but only a small percentage actually check them, then the chances of valuable coins being overlooked are very real. This is not theory, it is something that has happened repeatedly in the world of coin collecting. Coins with errors, coins in high-grade condition, coins that should have been removed from circulation long ago, sometimes continue to move from hand to hand unnoticed. Now imagine how this connects to the idea of long-term scarcity. Even though billions of 2008 pennies were produced, most of them have already been damaged through circulation. Scratches, dents, discoloration, and general wear slowly reduce the number of coins that remain in collectible condition. Over time, this process continues, and the number of high-quality examples becomes smaller and smaller. This creates a silent shift in supply. The total number of coins may still be large, but the number of desirable coins decreases. And when demand meets a shrinking supply of high-grade examples, value can begin to increase. This is not something that happens overnight, but over years and decades. Now consider another layer, the idea of generational collecting. Every generation has its own interests and preferences. Some collectors focus on older coins with historical significance, while others are drawn to modern coins that they grew up with. As time passes, coins like the 2008 penny may become more interesting to future collectors who see them as part of their childhood or as artifacts from a specific period. This shift in perspective can influence demand in unexpected ways. A coin that seems ordinary today might gain attention in the future simply because it represents a specific era. This is one of the reasons why some collectors choose to hold on to certain coins rather than selling them immediately. And now let us go even deeper into strategy. Advanced collectors often create systems, not just habits. Instead of randomly checking coins, they set specific goals. For example, they might decide to collect the highest possible grade of each year in the Lincoln Cents series. Or they might focus only on error coins, building a specialized collection that targets a particular niche. This level of focus increases efficiency. Instead of trying to do everything, they concentrate on doing one thing very well. Over time, this specialization can lead to expertise that allows them to identify valuable coins faster and more accurately than others. Another powerful concept is leverage. Instead of relying only on personal effort, experienced collectors use tools and resources to increase their effectiveness. They study population reports, follow auction results, track market trends, and stay updated on new discoveries. This information gives them an advantage, allowing them to make decisions based on data rather than guesswork. Now imagine combining all of these elements: knowledge, observation, strategy, patience, and awareness. This combination creates a completely different experience. You are no longer hoping to find something valuable. You are actively increasing your chances through informed action. The 2008 penny, in this context, becomes more than just a single coin. It becomes a starting point, a way to practice and develop skills that can be applied to many other coins and collectibles. Once you understand how to evaluate one coin properly, you can apply the same principles to others, expanding your opportunities. Now let us address something important: the difference between luck and probability. Many people think that finding a valuable coin is purely based on luck. While luck can play a role, it is not the whole story. The more coins you examine, the more you learn, and the more consistent your process becomes, the higher your chances of finding something valuable. This is similar to many areas in life where repeated effort increases the likelihood of success. It may not guarantee a result every time, but it shifts the odds in your favor. Over time, this makes a significant difference. Another advanced insight is understanding diminishing returns. At the beginning, every new piece of knowledge can dramatically improve your ability to identify valuable coins. But as you become more experienced, each additional improvement becomes smaller and more subtle. This is natural, and it is part of the process of mastering any skill. At this stage, progress comes from refining details, improving accuracy, and reducing mistakes. Even a small improvement in judgment can lead to better decisions and higher overall success. Now imagine the long-term picture. Years from now, you may have a collection of coins that you carefully selected, each one representing a decision you made based on knowledge and experience. Some of those coins may have increased in value, others may have remained the same, but the overall result is shaped by your consistency and understanding. The idea of a 2008 penny reaching extreme values like $6.6 million may remain unrealistic, but the journey it represents is very real. It shows how curiosity can lead to knowledge, knowledge can lead to skill, and skill can lead to opportunity. And perhaps the most important realization is this: value is not always obvious, and it is not always immediate. Sometimes it requires time, attention, and the willingness to look closer than others. So when you hold a coin in your hand now, you are not just holding a small piece of metal. You are holding a question, a possibility, a decision waiting to be made. Do you ignore it like most people, or do you take a closer look? Because the difference between those two choices is where everything begins. Now imagine reaching a point where everything you have learned no longer feels like separate pieces of information, but instead feels like one complete system working together inside your mind. At this stage, you are no longer consciously thinking about every small detail, yet you are still noticing everything. The weight of the coin, the shine, the texture, the sharpness of the design, all of it is processed almost instantly. The 2008 penny becomes something you can evaluate within seconds, but the understanding behind that quick judgment comes from everything you have practiced over time. This is where mastery begins to take shape, not as perfection, but as consistency. You no longer get distracted by unrealistic claims or exaggerated values. When you hear something like a penny being worth $6.6 million, your mind immediately filters it, not with emotion, but with logic. You understand what factors would be required for such a value to exist, and you recognize that without extreme rarity, historical importance, or unique circumstances, such numbers are not grounded in reality. And yet, instead of dismissing the idea completely, you understand why such claims attract attention. They spark curiosity, they bring new people into the world of coins, and sometimes they even lead to genuine discoveries, because someone decides to check their coins for the first time. In that sense, even exaggerated stories can have an indirect effect on the growth of the hobby. Now think about your process. It has become more refined, more efficient. You no longer check coins randomly. You move with purpose. You know what you are looking for, and more importantly, you know what to ignore. This ability to filter out noise is one of the most valuable skills you have developed. It saves time, reduces frustration, and allows you to focus on what truly matters. The 2008 penny, by now, is no longer just a subject of study. It is a reference point, a coin you understand deeply enough to use as a baseline. When you look at other coins, you compare them mentally to what you know about this one. You notice differences in design, composition, strike quality, and wear patterns. This comparative thinking expands your knowledge beyond a single coin and into a broader understanding of coinage as a whole. Now let us explore something even more subtle: the concept of eye appeal. Two coins with the same technical grade can look very different to a collector. One may have better color, smoother surfaces, or a more attractive overall appearance. This subjective quality can influence value in ways that are not always obvious in grading numbers alone. Experienced collectors learn to recognize and appreciate this, and it often guides their decisions when choosing between similar coins. Another advanced realization is that not all value is financial. Some coins become valuable because of the story behind them, the effort it took to find them, or the role they play in completing a collection. A 2008 D penny that you personally discovered in exceptional condition may hold more meaning to you than a coin purchased at a higher price. This emotional connection is part of what makes collecting so engaging and personal. Now imagine how this journey changes the way you see everyday life. You begin to notice details in other areas as well. You become more observant, more patient, more willing to look closely instead of rushing past things. This shift in mindset extends beyond coins and influences how you approach problems, decisions, and opportunities. Let us return for a moment to the idea of the market. By now, you understand that value is not fixed. It moves, it changes, it responds to interest and availability. A coin that is overlooked today might become desirable tomorrow. This uncertainty is not something to fear, but something to understand and work with. Some collectors choose to adapt to the market, buying and selling based on trends. Others take a different approach, focusing on building collections they believe will become valuable over time. Both strategies have their place, and each requires a different mindset. The key is to choose an approach that aligns with your goals and to remain consistent in applying it. Now think about the long-term impact of everything you have learned. Years from now, you may look back and realize that what started as a simple curiosity about a single coin turned into a deep and rewarding pursuit. You may have built a collection, developed expertise, and perhaps even generated income along the way. The 2008 D penny will always remain a part of that journey, not necessarily because it became extremely valuable, but because it taught you how to see value differently. It showed you that even the most common objects can become interesting when you understand them deeply, and perhaps that is the most important lesson of all. Value is not just something you find, it is something you learn to recognize. It is shaped by knowledge, perspective, and attention. Once you develop the ability to see it, you begin to notice it in places where others see nothing at all. So as you continue forward, whether you are examining coins or exploring other opportunities, remember this process. Look closely. Ask questions. Stay patient. Learn continuously. Because the skills you have developed here are not limited to coins. They are tools that can be applied to many areas of life, and somewhere, in a jar of coins, in a drawer, or in your pocket, there may still be a 2008 D penny waiting to be noticed. Not because it is worth millions, but because it represents something far more powerful, the ability to turn curiosity into knowledge, and knowledge into opportunity. Now imagine that everything you have learned so far begins to settle into something even deeper, something quieter but more powerful, where you no longer feel the need to constantly search for value, because you already understand how and where it forms. At this level, the journey with the 2008 D penny becomes less about the coin itself and more about the mindset you have built around it. You begin to realize that most people spend their entire lives surrounded by opportunities they never notice, not because those opportunities are hidden, but because they never trained themselves to look closely. Coins are just one example of this. A small object, passed from hand to hand, ignored by millions, yet capable of teaching lessons about rarity, attention, patience, and discipline. Think about how many 2008 D pennies have already passed through countless hands since they were minted. Each coin has traveled through shops, markets, wallets, and banks. Some have been scratched, some have been lost, some have been damaged beyond recognition. And yet, somewhere among them, a few still remain in exceptional condition, quietly existing without anyone realizing their potential. This is where your awareness becomes your advantage. You are no longer just another person handling coins. You are someone who sees differences, who understands what others overlook. This awareness does not guarantee that every coin you find will be valuable, but it dramatically increases your ability to recognize the ones that might be. And now consider how this applies to decision making. When you evaluate a coin, you are making a judgment based on multiple factors: condition, rarity, demand, and potential. This process trains your mind to think critically, to weigh evidence, and to avoid emotional decisions. Over time, this way of thinking becomes natural, and it begins to influence how you approach other areas of life. The 2008 D penny, in this sense, becomes more than just a subject of study. It becomes a tool for developing a way of thinking that is careful, observant, and analytical. You learn to question assumptions, to verify information, and to rely on evidence rather than hype. Now let us go even deeper into the idea of rarity. True rarity is not just about low numbers. It is about survival and condition. Out of billions of coins, only a small percentage remain in high-grade condition, and an even smaller percentage may have unique errors. This creates layers of rarity, where each layer represents a different level of scarcity. At the lowest level, you have common circulated coins that are abundant and widely available. At the next level, you have uncirculated coins that are less common but still accessible. Above that, you have high-grade coins that are scarce due to their condition. And at the highest level, you have error coins or unique variations that may exist in very limited numbers. Understanding these layers helps you see where value is most likely to exist. It also helps you avoid wasting time on coins that are unlikely to offer any significant return. Instead of chasing unrealistic possibilities, you focus on areas where the balance between effort and reward makes sense. Now imagine the long-term impact of this approach. Over time, you build a collection that reflects your understanding. Each coin you keep has a reason behind it. It is not random, and it is not based on guesswork. It is the result of observation, learning, and decision-making. Some of these coins may increase in value, others may remain stable, but the overall collection represents something more important than money. It represents your growth, your discipline, and your ability to recognize value. Now let us return briefly to the idea of extreme claims, such as a 2008 penny being worth $6.6 million. By now, you understand why such claims are unrealistic, but you also understand why they exist. They capture attention, they create curiosity, and they sometimes bring new people into the world of coin collecting, but you are no longer influenced by such claims. You have moved beyond that stage. You understand that real value is built on solid foundations, not on exaggerated numbers. This clarity allows you to focus on what truly matters, without being distracted by noise. Another important realization at this stage is that not every opportunity needs to be taken. Sometimes, the best decision is to pass on a coin that does not meet your criteria. This ability to say no is just as important as the ability to recognize value. It keeps your collection focused and prevents unnecessary clutter. Now think about how your perspective has changed since the beginning of this journey. What once seemed like a simple question about a coin has turned into a deep exploration of value, perception, and decision-making. You have learned to see details, to think critically, and to act with intention, and yet, there is still a sense of curiosity that remains, because no matter how much you learn, there is always more to discover. New coins, new errors, new patterns, and new opportunities continue to appear. This keeps the journey alive, constantly evolving. The 2008 penny remains a part of this story, not because it is the most valuable coin, but because it was the starting point. It was the coin that introduced you to a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing the world. And now imagine holding that coin again, the same small piece of metal, but with a completely different perspective. It feels lighter in your hand, yet heavier with meaning. It is no longer just a penny. It is a reminder of everything you have learned, everything you have practiced, and everything you are capable of seeing now. And as you continue forward, you carry this awareness with you. Not just when you look at coins, but whenever you encounter something that others might overlook. Because once you learn how to recognize hidden value, you begin to realize that it exists everywhere, waiting quietly for someone who knows how to see it. That is where the real journey continues, beyond the coin, beyond the numbers, and into a way of thinking that transforms the ordinary into something meaningful. Now imagine reaching the final stage of this entire journey, where everything you have seen, learned, practiced, and understood comes together into one clear realization that feels simple, yet took time to truly understand. The 2008 penny, the weight of 2.5 grams, the copper-plated zinc composition, the small D mint mark, the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, all of these details that once felt like separate facts now feel connected, like parts of a complete picture that finally makes sense. At the very beginning, this was just a question about a coin, a simple curiosity about value, maybe even driven by the idea that somewhere out there, a coin could be worth millions. Something like $6.6 million. That idea may have sounded exciting, almost unbelievable, and in reality, it is. But what mattered more than the number was the door it opened. It pushed you to look closer, to question, to explore, and to understand something that most people never take the time to learn. And now, at this point, you no longer need extreme claims to stay interested. You understand the real reasons why coins have value. You understand condition, rarity, demand, and the role of time. You understand how billions of coins can exist, yet only a small number become desirable. You understand how something as simple as preserving a coin in its original state can make a difference years later. Think about the journey of a single 2008 penny. It begins as a blank piece of metal, struck under immense pressure in a mint facility, shaped into a design that has existed for decades.
From there, it enters circulation, moving through countless hands, traveling across cities, passing through markets, shops, and pockets. Along the way, it faces wear, damage, and the randomness of everyday life. Most coins lose their original quality over time, slowly becoming less and less distinct, but a few coins take a different path. They are set aside, stored carefully, protected from damage. These coins retain their original luster, their sharp details, their full design. They survive in a condition that most others do not. And over time, this difference becomes meaningful. Not because the coin itself changed, but because everything around it did. Now imagine how this connects to value. Value is not just about what something is, but about how it compares to everything else.
When most coins become worn, the ones that remain in excellent condition stand out. When most people ignore small details, those who pay attention gain an advantage.
When most objects are treated as ordinary, the few that are preserved become special. This is the core idea that runs through everything you have learned. The 2008 penny is just one example, but the principle applies far beyond coins. It applies to knowledge, to skills, to opportunities. The difference between ordinary and valuable often comes down to attention, care, and time. Now think about your own role in this process.
At the beginning, you were simply looking for answers. Now, you have become someone who understands how to find them.
You know how to observe, how to question, how to verify, and how to decide.
This transformation is far more valuable than any single coin could ever be, and yes, the reality remains clear.
A normal 2008 penny is not worth millions. It is worth 1 cent in most cases. But the knowledge you gained by exploring that possibility is worth far more than the coin itself.
It has changed the way you see things.
It has trained you to look beyond the surface. Now imagine the future. Coins will continue to circulate, new ones will be minted, old ones will disappear, and the cycle will continue. Somewhere in that flow, there will always be opportunities, small differences, rare variations, and unnoticed details waiting to be discovered. The question is no longer whether those opportunities exist.
The question is whether you will notice them, because now, you have the ability to do something that most people never do. You can take an ordinary object and see it differently.
You can recognize patterns, understand value, and make decisions based on knowledge instead of assumption, and that is where everything changes. So the next time you hold a 2008 penny, or any coin at all, pause for just a moment.
Feel its weight, look at its surface, notice the details that most people ignore.
Not because you expect it to be worth millions, but because you understand what it represents. It represents a process,
a journey,
a shift in awareness. It represents the idea that value is not always obvious, but it is always there for those who take the time to look, and in the end, that is the real conclusion of this entire story. Not a number, not a price, not a claim of millions, but a simple truth that stays with you long after the coin is gone. The smallest things can teach the biggest lessons, and once you learn how to see them, you never look at the world the same way again.